Corrupting the Entempled Plane is the debut full length from Ageless Summoning, and this is a band they've been pretty straightforward about what they are. I mean, they're a death metal band for sure, but they are one that takes a clear influence from Morbid Angel and a certain era of that sound, while also pulling in some of the things they really like about Immolation of that same era, that is the late 90s and early 2000s. And this is a group from Scotland and England who feature members of bands you should know, like of Spire and Throne, Scordatura, and Abyssal. So obviously these people know what they're doing. They're quite accomplished in their other groups, and coming together for this group is, I think, both probably a pleasure and a joy for them to jump into, but also a sort of an interesting landscape to put their own touch upon, because this post-millennium Morbid Angel sound is both atmospheric and oppressive, and Immolation is similarly crushing and oppressive in their more technical side of those early 2000s. So for me, those are very important records, especially like between Gateways and Unholy Cult. I think those are two of the most important records for keeping me interested in the proper death metal canon for as long as I have. So we'll get right into what this band sounds like. We'll give you a clip and we'll go from there. So Ageless Summoning's own sound is certainly referential to, formulas and gateways and whatnot, and all these things that I've referenced, but it isn't a clone of Tucker era Morbid Angel so much as it is, that's the jumping off point for their general sound design and approach to crafting songs which are not necessarily purely contrapuntal, but have two rhythm guitarists leading off into the distance and creating a landscape of imaginative guitar runs and what I would consider atmospheric death metal in most respects. Now, that's not unheard of, especially if you're a fan of Abyssal, and we're sort of interested in what this band was doing as more of a pure death metal thing. So the big thing about this record is it has riffs. It has tons of atmosphere, and it has a lot of creative solos, and there's a lot of depth and texture to each of these songs, which have sort of a narrative touch to the way that they play out in their forms. There's quite a lot of songs here, and it's a very long album, but I think that helps with the general immersion. I feel like it sets in after the first couple of songs. They sort of hit their stride with a couple of stronger pieces, and we never quite get the sort of performative level of tighter songwriting that we get from Immolation that we might have been sort of hinted at in the press materials, but we at least get some of those twisted turns taken and some of the here and after sort of the nuance that was found on that record more than anything else. So for me, there's a lot of what I would consider like Where the Slime Live moments, where it's just the pinch harmonic and the lunging sort of strikes, and that's kind of the cool thing about this record, is that it hits upon those references while kind of extending the conversation as much as they can. But that's not really why I stuck with this record. I think that's all cool, but when we get to the second half, they start to show what else they can do. There's some elements of Death Doom. There's some meandering sort of psychedelic rhythmic movement. It feels like they're sort of jamming out a little bit at times. It feels like there's an element to this band where they just like to play together. They're not necessarily a jam band, but you can tell there's an element of play with those textures that they're enjoying as a group that they would like to be even more free with. And I think that, well, that might be a mess, but this is a way of shoring it all in to a record that's a lot of fun to listen to, that has a lot of substance to it. I feel like they're telling a story here, which is both love. It's like that Lovecraftian expanse where you're actually starting to visualize the area rather than focusing on the minutia of the characters. So there's a bit of fat to trim with this record. There's a lot there, and some of it's a little bit overstated as we push on. But overall, this is one of the finer records of July. I think it's a very easy record to get into and appreciate, and I think they've curated it especially well. So check it out if that's your kind of thing. It certainly is mine. And yeah, go ahead and read the review, and it should be out now.
Because my soul